Welcome to Async. This is Joshua. See if we can adjust this. It's maybe a little bit crooked, but it's all right. This is a follow-up conversation between Joshua and Saadia, and it's been about 2 weeks since I followed up. It's been a crazy time here in the States, and glad to be back. A couple of things. First, you know how you grow up looking in the mirror, and you see yourself, your reflection, every morning when you brush your teeth, every night when you brush your teeth, and you know how you look. Your face is a certain way, and then if you ever see it not that way, it messes with you. Well, that's QuickTime. I'm recording on QuickTime right now using my iPhone, mirrored or whatever it is connected. So the iPhone's doing the recording, but QuickTime is showing my video back, mirrored opposite of what I'm used to. And so it's tripping me up. My face feels crooked, my head feels crooked, my mic, I'm holding up my right hand and it's my left hand. It's just incredibly weird. I've tried to figure this out. Apparently there's no way to flip it horizontally until after you're done recording. So we shall carry on. The reason I'm doing this is it allows me to use my Yeti mic through my Mac more easily. And recording on the iPhone's a little bit odd. So here I am. Some follow-up from your last episode. You talked about double tap and you asked me if it registered all the time or if it just didn't work the way I expected. I think it's a little bit of both, where I'm trying to tap my fingers together and it takes about 3 attempts before I get it right. Then only about half the time is it in the widget where I want it to do what I want, and then it's delayed doing what I want. So it's pretty much a useless feature. Incredibly frustrating because the idea of it's so fantastic. I was thinking recently, I wish there was more hand gestures I could use, like on a Vision Pro, so that I could maybe change the volume, play and pause, do different things while I'm on a run or washing the dishes. That would just be so fantastic. So maybe there is more of like how the Orion works. I haven't used that yet, but I'm quite curious. For Apple Podcasts, I have a lot of podcasts I listen to, as you know, maybe 20 different shows, and Overcast does a really good job of showing me what's coming next in my feed. I don't care about any episodes from a show that I don't want to listen to. And it's generally only the most recent that I want to listen to, unless it's an old show I'm going through that I've picked it out. So I've found in Apple Podcasts, if I select if I go to the latest episodes menu category in my Apple Podcasts, that's where I live all the time. That's the only screen that matters to me. It shows a reverse chronological ordered list of all the episodes I want to go through, and that's just what I use. Because of that feature, it's fine. The rest of the UI is fine, and I've noticed I miss Overcast's where they take out he strips out any silences. A lot of times on Apple Podcasts there'll be a silence like that where you just think, the podcast must have paused, come about to get a phone call in or some kind of an alert. And it trips me up throughout the day. So I actually have all my podcasts set to a slate, 1.5x speed, even when I don't normally want to do that, or 1.25x speed, because the not having the strip silence is incredibly odd. And the voice boost is great on Overcast. So I would go back if the streaming or the syncing issue is fixed, but it was just a non-starter for me. Every time I tried, I would pause an episode 7 minutes in, because I pause all the time. I'd pause an episode because I'd maybe talk to someone or need to check on something. And when I resume by double tapping on my AirPods or tapping, it goes back to the start of the episode. It's incredibly frustrating. So it's a non-starter. I'll go back if that's fixed, but I can't just keep checking regularly, hoping it will be fixed. Because I do want to support Marco. I do want to support an indie app developer, and I think he makes a fantastic app. And I love the story of the rewrite. I was all in, despite all the UI changes, until it just stopped working for me. For travel, my experience, whenever I fly, I take the AirPods Max. It's big, it's ungainly, but I carry them with me just because I love the experience of being in a plane with the AirPods Max, and just kind of shuts out the whole environment. I carry the AirPods Pro as well, and I'll switch between those two, depending on the scenario. Maybe if I'm walking through the airport, I'll have a Pro in, and it's only one AirPod in and one ear, so I can still hear the environment around me, but still listen to a podcast or such. And I actually have enabled the noise canceling. You have to turn it on in accessibility so that the one ear is noise canceled, and I can focus on that ear entirely, while also using the other ear to navigate around me. That's kind of whenever I'm around other people, that's what I use. I've also started using Apple Watch checkout at my local grocery store because of you. I'm not at the stage where I can get rid of my wallet, mainly because I don't have a digital ID. That's not available to me yet. I think it might be next year. We'll see. And there's places I buy gas or shop where I still have to swipe a credit card. Maybe in a couple of years I'll be at that point, but I'm glad to know that you are iPhone only. That's pretty fantastic. For my traveling setup, it depends on what I'm going to do. For instance, I'll be going on a trip here at some point. The family and I are taking a vacation, and if I need to work on the trip, that changes a lot. It's a lot different than if I don't need to work. And historically, I always bring a laptop because you never know. The one vacation I didn't take a laptop, I ended up having to do some complicated real estate paperwork on an iPad, and it took 3 times as long, barely worked. It was incredibly stressful, and then I'm like, nope, I'll just bring a laptop every time. So that kind of determines that if I fly, I've got the AirPods Max, I bring a laptop, I bring cords, I bring accessories, I bring battery packs, and I usually will I'll bring my little iPad, it's the iPad mini, and usually I'll often bring the Kindle in hopes of reading, but doesn't usually happen. All right, so new topics. Leading into that, I wrote on my blog last week, Cal Newport has this book, Digital Minimalism, and there's another one, I can't remember the topic, Slow Productivity, I think, where he talks about this concept of taking a month off from all infinity wells. All social media, gaming, watching movies, unless you're doing those socially, that's the exception. So since last week, I've been doing that. 99% of the time sticking to it. I've been pretty good about it. No YouTube on my own, no Reddit, no social media, no just anything that's an infinity well. I still use the Reader app, REEDER for RSS. That's fine. I'll go to different blogs, but I just don't want infinity wells. And what's happened is I find myself a little bit bored at periods of the day when I'm not working, and that's pretty nice. And what I've been doing is just listening to more podcasts, more audiobooks. I've even, at nighttime, there's a book I really enjoy, Dungeon Crawler Carl, and the 7th book is out now on Kindle, not out on audiobook. So at nighttime, I'm actually reading it on the Kindle. And last night I spent like an hour just enjoying reading this book, doing absolutely nothing else, and that's incredibly rare for me. And I've discovered in cutting out social media and most infinity wells that I just feel more peaceful. I feel more calm. It's not that I'm not getting news because I still listen to 20 different podcasts, but it's slower. It's like a drip where it's a couple days delayed, and I don't really listen to news-specific podcasts. It's more tech podcasts, so I'm getting news in little bits, and I think this is just a fantastic thing. I don't know that I would do it forever, but I wish I could just do it more. So I'll do this till the start of next month. I think December 7th is my cutoff. I actually designed a little widget to go on my iPhone to remind me why I'm doing this, the apps I won't use and the things I will do, which are writing more, running, spending time with people, creating. Those are the things that I want to do in this month. And it's been absolutely delightful. On that note, Seth Godin, an author I really enjoy, he writes a lot about marketing. He released an audiobook that you have to buy on his website through his own checkout process. And it then gives you an RSS feed to download the audiobook onto your podcast player. So it's really interesting. I now have an entire audiobook in my podcast player. And it's actually broken up into chapters, which I'm not sure. I understand why, but I kind of wish it was a single episode with chapters inside of it, because now it's taking up like 20 slots in my podcast player, and then I have all the rest of the episodes. But I've been slowly listening through this book, and the reason he talked about this is Audible is just taking up all of the margin for him as an author. And if he charges $20 and sells it direct, he can get most of that margin, and it helps to provide for him in the time he spent recording it. That just got me thinking about, one, it's actually decent, and the premise he had is most people have a podcast player, so you don't need to download a separate one. So if you have Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, and I just thought that was really neat. I support that, being a little bit more creative with our audio. One final thing, I've been on a writing tear with it's NaNoWriMo. It's this idea of, in November, you write a novel. Well, I started writing a novel for the first 3 days, and it's not going so well. But I've been writing, it's currently 5 days a week, 755 words a day, 750 words a day. In the past, it used to be more, but I've found that I can commit to that. It doesn't take me too long, and I've been blogging most of it, putting it on my blog as different thought pieces, and it's delightful. The lack of infinity wells seems to just give me a little bit more time for other things. I don't know about app design or development for myself right now, but at least I'm finding some outlets for creativity.